The morning sky hung low and gray, as if it too carried the weight of unspoken struggles. Maya stood outside the towering glass building that housed Shaw Enterprises, clutching her 6-month-old baby, Aisha, close to her chest. The infant's tiny fingers curled instinctively around the edge of her mother's scarf, her breaths warm and delicate against Maya's neck. Maya took a deep breath. This was not how she had envisioned her day. Every morning she left Aisha with her neighbor, a kind older woman who looked after the baby while Maya worked. But today, life had conspired against her. The babysitter had been rushed to the clinic at dawn, and Maya's husband was away in another city, working a double shift as a security guard to keep food on the table. There was no one else, no relatives she could call, no friend she could lean on. Her options were painfully clear: either skip work and risk losing the job she desperately needed, or bring her baby to the office. Maya's job wasn't glamorous. She was a junior assistant, tasked with answering calls, sorting files, and making sure coffee was ready before the morning meetings began. The pay was modest, but for Maya, it meant survival. She had endured enough struggles, nights without proper meals, days counting coins to afford bus fare, that she could not afford to risk being fired. She whispered to her daughter, as though speaking the words aloud would summon courage, "We'll manage somehow, my love. Mama will find a way." Steeling her nerves, Maya pushed open the heavy glass doors and stepped inside. The office lobby was a picture of elegance. Marble floors gleamed under the soft lights, the receptionist's desk was adorned with fresh lilies, and executives in polished suits hurried past with coffee cups in hand. The moment Maya entered, the difference between her and everyone else seemed to magnify. Her simple cotton dress, the sling carrying her baby, the weariness etched into her face, all of it clashed with the immaculate corporate setting. The receptionist raised her brows, her eyes falling immediately on the baby. "You brought a child," she whispered, disbelief dripping from her voice. Maya forced a polite smile. "Just for today. I didn't have anyone to watch her." The receptionist pursed her lips, clearly unconvinced, but didn't stop her. As Maya walked through the hallways toward her desk, the stares began. Whispers floated behind her, some curious, some disapproving, some amused. "Is she serious?" One colleague muttered. "This is a corporate office, not a daycare," another whispered. "Wait till Mr. Shaw sees this. She's done for," someone else added with a chuckle. The mention of Mr. Shaw made Maya's heart race. Armand Shaw, the owner of the company, was no ordinary man. He was a self-made millionaire, a figure both feared and respected in the business world. Stories about his ruthlessness in the boardroom were legend, and even his senior managers treaded carefully around him. He valued discipline, professionalism, and results above all else. Maya had only seen him a handful of times, always from a distance, always surrounded by people eager to impress him. He seemed untouchable, a figure carved from ambition and steel. The thought of him noticing her baby here sent shivers down her spine. Still, she had no choice. She reached her desk, carefully lowering Aisha into a small basket she had padded with a soft blanket. The baby cooed, her innocent eyes wide as she observed the unfamiliar surroundings. Maya stroked her daughter's cheek and whispered, "Please, sweetheart, be calm today. Just for Mama." The hours crawled. Maya answered phone calls with one hand while gently rocking the basket with the other. She typed with quiet urgency, stealing glances to make sure Aisha was comfortable. For a while, it seemed manageable, until the baby started fussing. A soft whimper grew into a cry. Heads turned. A few colleagues rolled their eyes. One woman muttered, "This is so unprofessional." Maya's cheeks burned. She lifted her daughter, gently bouncing her in her arms. "Shush, baby, it's okay." The cries grew louder, echoing against the walls. She could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on her from every direction. Just as she was about to rush to the restroom to calm Aisha in private, a hush fell over the office. The elevator doors slid open. Out stepped him, Armand Shaw, tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit. His presence commanded instant silence. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the sound of typing slowed. His sharp eyes scanned the room, as though measuring the worth of everyone in it. Maya froze, her baby still whimpering against her shoulder. Every instinct told her to vanish, to hide before his gaze landed on her. But it was too late. His eyes locked onto the small, unusual sight in the otherwise pristine office, an assistant cradling a crying baby. The air seemed to thicken. Colleagues shifted uncomfortably, waiting for the inevitable explosion. They had seen Mr. Shah reprimand employees for far smaller infractions. An assistant once lost her job for being late twice in a week. Another had been reassigned after a single mistake in a report. And here was Maya, bringing a baby into his empire of discipline. Her heart pounded in her chest. She opened her mouth, desperate to explain, but no words came out. She clutched Aisha tighter, whispering a silent prayer. Armin's steps echoed as he walked directly toward her desk. His expression was unreadable, his eyes fixed on her. The entire office seemed to hold its breath. Maya's colleagues leaned closer, whispering predictions. She's finished. He's going to humiliate her. Why would anyone be so foolish? Maya swallowed hard, bracing herself. She could already picture herself packing her few belongings, returning home with no job, no income, and no way to provide for her child. But then, something happened. Armin stopped in front of her desk, his gaze not on Maya, but on the baby. Aisha, as though sensing the gravity of the moment, quieted. Her big, curious eyes blinked up at the imposing figure. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. And then, to everyone's shock, the corners of Armin's lips softened. Instead of anger, there was something else in his eyes, something no one had ever seen from him in the office. A flicker of tenderness. He lowered his voice, almost gentle, and asked, "What's her name?" Maya blinked, caught completely off guard. Aisha, sir." Armin nodded slowly. His gaze lingered on the baby before returning to Maya. "Come to my office," he said simply. Gasps rippled through the room. No one was ever summoned to his office without reason, usually for reprimand, or worse. The fact that he said it without shouting, without anger, was baffling. Maya's legs trembled as she rose, clutching her baby. She followed him, her heart hammering louder with each step. Behind her, the whispers began again, but this time they were filled with confusion rather than scorn. What just happened? Did he smile? No way, I must be imagining it. As the heavy door to Armin Shah's private office closed behind them, the employees were left stunned. None of them could predict what would happen next. But one thing was certain, the moment was unlike anything they had ever witnessed. And for Maya, her fate, her entire life, was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. The silence inside Armin Shah's office was almost heavier than the stairs outside. Maya stood nervously near the door, her baby nestled against her chest, her knees nearly buckling under the weight of uncertainty. The office was vast, its walls lined with shelves of books and awards, the large mahogany desk spotless except for a sleek laptop and a few neatly stacked files. Behind it, floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the bustling city below, but to Maya, the world outside seemed far away. Armin turned, his tall figure silhouetted against the light. He gestured calmly toward the chair in front of his desk. "Sit." His voice, though firm, was not harsh. Still, Maya hesitated. No one ever sat casually in his presence, especially not someone in her position. But the weight of her baby made the choice for her. She lowered herself into the chair carefully, adjusting Aisha, who had grown oddly calm in the millionaire's presence. For a long moment, Armin simply observed them. His sharp eyes that had unsettled board members and rival CEOs, softened slightly as they landed on the baby's small, curious face. Maya swallowed, finally finding her voice. "Sir, I'm so sorry. My babysitter fell sick this morning, and I had no one else. I didn't want to miss work, but Armin raised a hand gently, cutting her off. "You don't need to explain further." Her breath caught. She had expected anger, maybe even dismissal, but not this quiet acceptance. She clutched the edge of her scarf, unsure what to say. He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers thoughtfully. "You know," he began, his tone measured, "most people here see me as a man who built his empire with no room for weakness. They think I have no patience for anything human." Maya blinked, unsure how to respond. Armin's gaze shifted to the window, his voice lowering. "What they don't know is that I once lived a life not too different from yours. My mother raised me alone after my father abandoned us. She had no one to help her, no one to watch over me while she worked. Many days, she carried me to the factory floor because she couldn't afford to stay home." Maya's eyes widened. She had never imagined the billionaire had come from such hardship. To the world, he was the embodiment of power and wealth, untouchable, unbreakable. Yet here he was, speaking of struggles that mirrored her own. "She sacrificed everything for me," he continued, his voice heavy with memory. "And I swore that one day, if I ever had the means, I would make sure mothers like her never had to choose between feeding their child and keeping their job. His words lingered in the air, settling deep into Maya's heart. He leaned forward, resting his arms on the desk. Maya, you remind me of her. And your daughter. He paused, glancing at the baby who now gurgled happily in her mother's lap. A rare smile tugged at the corners of his lips. She reminds me of myself. Tears welled in Maya's eyes. She quickly blinked them back, terrified of appearing weak, but the sincerity in his voice made it impossible to hold them all in. Then came the moment that would leave the entire company, and later, the world, speechless. Armin pressed a button on his desk phone. Call the management team to the conference room. Now. Within minutes, the senior staff and department heads were assembled, buzzing with curiosity. Word had spread that the assistant who brought her baby had been summoned, and now the millionaire himself was calling an urgent meeting. Whispers filled the air. Was he about to fire her publicly? Make an example out of her? Maya followed Armin into the conference room, her baby still in her arms. She felt like she was walking into judgment, dozens of eyes piercing her from every angle. Armin took his place at the head of the table, his expression serious yet calm. Today, he began, his voice resonant, I witnessed something that reminded me why I built this company in the first place. Not just for profits, not just for power, but to change lives. The room grew still. He gestured toward Maya. This young woman brought her child to work today, not out of negligence, but out of desperation. She had no choice, and I see in her what I saw in my mother many years ago, the determination to work hard, no matter the odds, for the sake of her child. Gasps rippled across the room. The managers exchanged stunned glances. This was not the Armin Shah they knew, the man who valued punctuality over excuses, perfection over compassion. Armin continued, his tone firm. Effective immediately, Shah Enterprises will establish a childcare program within our offices. A fully equipped daycare, staffed with professionals, where our employees' children can be cared for while their parents work. No employee should ever have to choose between their child and their career. The silence was deafening. No one dared speak. And, he added, turning to Maya, you, Maya, will head this initiative. You will no longer serve as just an assistant. From today, you are the director of employee care programs. Your salary will be increased accordingly. Maya's lips parted in shock. She stared at him, unable to process what she had just heard. Yes, sir. Me, director. Armin nodded. Who better to lead such a program than someone who understands the struggle firsthand? Your experiences are your strength, not your weakness. Maya's eyes brimmed with tears. She clutched Aisha close, whispering a prayer of gratitude under her breath. The baby babbled happily, as if sensing her mother's joy. Around the table, the managers sat frozen, their expressions a mix of disbelief and awe. Some looked humbled, others inspired, but none could deny the magnitude of what had just unfolded. Armin stood, signaling the meeting was over. Let this be a reminder, he said, his voice echoing with quiet authority, that true success is not measured only in profits, but in the lives we touch and the futures we build. Never forget that. With that, he exited the room, leaving behind an atmosphere thick with astonishment. The news spread like wildfire. Employees who had once mocked Maya now looked at her with newfound respect. Many whispered that they had witnessed a miracle, others called it the most human moment in the company's history. Within weeks, construction began on a state-of-the-art daycare facility inside the building. Maya's life transformed. She moved into her new role with humility and determination, ensuring every parent in the company had the support she had once lacked. Her colleagues, once skeptics, began to admire her, not just for her position, but for the strength she had shown when she walked into that office with her baby, refusing to give up. As for Armin Shah, his reputation began to shift. The media picked up the story, painting him not only as a ruthless businessman but also as a visionary leader with a heart. Investors respected him even more, and his employees became fiercely loyal, inspired by his unexpected act of compassion. But for Maya, the true victory was personal. Each day, as she walked past the new daycare facility and saw children laughing safely under professional care, she felt a profound sense of purpose. Her baby, Aisha, would grow up knowing that her mother's courage had sparked change, not just for them, but for countless families. One evening, as the office lights dimmed and most employees had left, Armin passed by the daycare. He paused, watching through the glass as Maya played with her daughter and the other children. For the first time in a long while, he felt his mother's presence close by, her sacrifices alive in every smile he saw. He whispered softly, almost to himself, this is the legacy that truly matters. And in that quiet moment, it became clear to everyone, what the millionaire had done that day had indeed left the world speechless, not because of power or wealth, but because of humanity.